playground.
Hooray!
This is the Deron Harris Podcast. Here's your host, Deron Harris.
Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the show. I'm Deron Harris. This is my podcast. Thank you for joining me this week. I do appreciate you. Listen, did you know that June was Men's Mental Health Awareness Month? And that is what I'm talking about today in a little bit of detail. I don't talk about mental health in as much detail as I would like to, but I think today and for the next I guess the next month, I'm going to try and explore the spool of yarn that is men's mental health. There is a lot to it. We suffer, and it is obvious. You know, we can see it every single day all around us. We are suffering. Men, we are suffering. But the one thing we aren't doing is we're not talking. We're not saying what's wrong. All this toxic alpha male bullshit that's going on has got all these men believing that they're just fine, that they don't have to say anything, or they don't need to decompress, or they don't need to talk to anyone. And that's a problem. And it's spilling out into our streets. Mental health issues and mental illness is rampant here in the United States, especially as of late with, what's going on with the current administration and watching social media and all this negativity on social media. It's just taxing on everybody's mental health, mine included. And I want to talk about this because I myself am a man who decided about, I've done it before, but I really kind of buckled down and decided about 3 years ago that it was time to get help. It was time to admit to myself that there is a serious problem, a real problem. I couldn't afford any longer to let what people thought about me going out and seeking help for mental health issues. I couldn't let what these people thought about that affect me or prevent me from going out and seeking help. For anybody who doesn't know or doesn't listen to my podcast, I suffer from major depressive disorder and anxiety. I also suffer from adult ADHD and post-traumatic stress disorder. I've seen a lot of traumatic things. I watched the World Trade Center, fall to the ground in person. I was there. There's been a lot of things in my life that have traumatized me throughout the course of my life. My parents split up when I was really young, for, reasons that I won't discuss, but I hold myself responsible for. But I've, since then learned that these things were not my fault. But when I was 7, you couldn't tell me that. I've lived through abusive relationships, like extremely abusive relationships in my family and in out in the world. There's a lot of things that really contribute to your mental stability. And you'd be surprised at how easy it is to push you off kilter. And a lot of people are off kilter, but they don't think that they are. They don't think that there is a problem. They think that they're just fine. They think it's the world around them that has the issues. And that leads to a lot of the reason why men don't talk. And what is the cost of silence? So, like I said, about 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. I've been hospitalized. I take medication. And, some days are difficult. Some days are extremely difficult. I have good days. But there are lots of bad days. My wife is extremely supportive, and I'm glad for that. And that is one thing that has been a lifeline for me, because I needed that. I needed someone that I could relate to, or someone that was willing to relate to me. My wife, I'm not saying that she's perfect, but she's perfect. But, my wife would say that, that she suffers from things also, but she wants to make sure that I'm good. And I just want to make sure that she's good. So, I encourage her as well to seek out, things that are going to help her mental stability. Seek out, seek out and practice whatever it may be that is going to help her mental stability. But a lot of men, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. What does it feel like? What does depression feel like? Well, some people don't know that they're depressed because they don't know what it feels like to be depressed. They just think they're tired, or they want to take naps, or they procrastinate a lot, or sometimes you do feel down, but it takes you a while to get out of that state. You don't want to shower. You don't want to interact with people. You have become afraid of society and the outside world. You don't want to be ridiculed. You don't want to. There's so many different reasons why people become depressed. There are lots of physical symptoms. You could lose your appetite. I don't sleep. That's another issue that's wrong with me. I have insomnia as well, so I don't really sleep. But I don't really want to take a lot of medication. I do take medication, but I don't want to take a lot of medication. So a lot of things I have to manage on my own, or with meditation, or straight up with plain therapy. And I just want to say that for me, therapy has been a dream come true. And I mean, even if you don't suffer from me, therapy does not hurt anyone. It helps, because it really does help you think of things through the lens of other situations or other people. It really does help you think through a different lens. You don't beat yourself up so much because you begin to understand the dynamic of what issues you have. Some of these things, a lot of these things, are beyond my control. And also, I have major depressive disorder. This is going to be with me forever. It doesn't go away. So for me, it really is about how to manage my mental health. And a lot of that came with speaking up. Having saying that I'm not okay. But a lot of us are under that pressure. A lot of men are under that pressure just to say that they're okay. I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Things tear us. Things hurt us also. But we have to put up that facade that there's this pressure for us to be okay. It's wild, because we don't talk for a lot of reasons, man. We don't talk because we don't want to be shamed by like friends. We're afraid to say shit to people. We don't say shit because we're afraid, man. There's not a lot of people for us to fucking talk to, or we don't think people will understand what we're going through, or and make fun of that. We don't want to go through that, man. We just don't. I just don't want to deal with that. So we suppress it. We put it away. And yeah, I'm all right. I'm fine. You know what I mean? And we do that. And what that what that does is it normalizes these experiences. You know, when we just lean into that, we normalize these different experiences that we go through when we don't speak up. We say that it's okay for us to be hurt and not acknowledge it. So there are many rules, man, as a man. You know, there's a lot of rules to masculinity. There's a lot of rules to being a fucking man. And the number one rule is man the fuck up. That's the number one thing motherfuckers say. I don't care what it is. I watched my grandfather. He was a construction worker. I watched him take a nail gun. He shot a nail through his hand, and I watched him pull it out of his hand and wrap his hand up. And I said, wow. He said, sometimes you just got to be tough, kid. And I knew he was in pain, but he kept working. He wasn't all right. He wasn't all right. You could see it on his face. He was agitated. He kept having to change his dressing. But he made this facade. You know, I had to man up so I could finish this job. It's crazy that we can't break down. I mean, like emotion. Like men can't really have emotions like that because they're feminized. And boys, like our sons, they are taught to shake it off and not to express it. Man up. Shake that shit off. I broke my fucking ankle playing basketball. I broke my ankle in 3 places. I tried to be a man and get up and try to play through the rest of the game. Nah, man, sit your ass down. And that was the first time that I said to somebody, no, you shake it off. Because when I realized it was broke, they was like, nah, you good, D? Just shake it off. I said, no, you shake it off. I think my ankle is really broken. You're going to have to get something to cut this shoe off me. And it was broken. But we can't express that we are broken. You know, we're not supposed to express, because if we express that, sometimes people get afraid because they're like, oh my God, that's the toughest motherfucker I know. And he's uncertain. So we are under this immense pressure to be that stability, to be that rock, to be that voice of reason. We are under that pressure all the time. And it's not really, I mean, sometimes it is, but a lot of times it's not other people that put it on us. It's ourselves that put that on ourselves. It's the truth. And we shouldn't do that. And the reason why we shouldn't do that, you know, the biggest reason, there's plenty of reasons why we shouldn't do it. The biggest reason is we just perpetuate the problem, and we browbeat ourselves into thinking that it's okay to absorb pain, not to let it out. We are here to absorb the pain. Whatever it is, we can just put it off all on me, and I can absorb this pain. And we can't. There's only so much that we can take. And that's the honest to God truth. There's only so much. We like to think that we are invincible. Men like to think that nothing can hurt us, especially a lot of these alpha male motherfuckers running around here. We like to think that nothing can hurt them. At least the thing that can hurt us is our emotions. That's bullshit. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why that's bullshit. Because any man who is in love, especially with the woman of their dreams, if she were to cheat on you, you would be devastated. You would be devastated. You wouldn't know what to do. There would be many different ways that you would react, and none of them would be rational to begin with. Maybe later on, but initially, your whole world is upside down. You want to kill shit. You want to cry. You want to pull out your own hair. You want to hurt her. You want to hurt yourself. You want to hurt the motherfucker she cheated with. There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons that we should not do that. We are conditioned to be protectors and providers, not the people who need protecting. That's simple. It's as simple as that. That's what we don't want to burden others. That's what we think. We don't want to burden you with our problems. But real men fucking need help. But we constantly said real men don't need help, but real men need fucking help. A real man will ask for help if he needs it. Self-reliance is celebrated to the point of self-destruction, and that's the society that we put ourselves through. That's the reality that a lot of us put ourselves through. Pain equals progress is what we kind of equate that. I don't know how we come up with that, but maybe it's some fucking some gym logic or something, but I don't know. I'm going to take a quick fast break and I'll come back. And when I come back, we're going to continue to talk about men's mental health and why it's important and why we don't talk and speak up and why it's important that we do. I'm Deron Harris. I'll be right back.
The podcast playground. Hooray!
Now, back to the Deron Harris podcast.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. I'm talking about men's mental health this month, I think. And today is going to kick off the first of 4 episodes about men's mental health because it's important to me. June is Men's Mental Health Month, and there's a lot of shit that happens during a man's life that will cause him some mental anguish, and it should never be overlooked. A man's mental health should not be overlooked. It really shouldn't. Fellas, 75% of all suicide victims in the United States are men. 75%. That's us, fellas. It's not the girls. That's us. And the reason why is we pile these fucking things on until we break ourselves. And we don't go out. We don't seek help. We don't tell anybody until it's too late. Until we don't want anybody's help. And all we want is for the pain to stop and some sort of relief. That's exactly why we do it. Now, I'm a black man, and there are really some issues that affect us like a little more deeply than everybody else. There's some things here. There is a cultural stigma in my community about exposing family business or appearing crazy in front of everybody or on the internet. We don't want to talk about shit like this. We don't want to tell people that we're in pain. We want to keep that in. And a lot of things that our families have been, like traditions, have been passed down that also contribute to our mental instability. There is matriarchal trauma that we suffer from that create mental anguish or mental health problems or depression issues. There's so many things and so many different issues. There's a lot of different issues that we suffer from. I mean, a lot of times my mind or my mother, I try. My mother, she kind of understands, but kind of not because, I bless her soul, she's into religion, and a lot of times her solution is to pray about it. Just pray about it. Just pray. Well, I've prayed. I've done a lot of praying. But I will say this. She is the catalyst. She is one of the people who was instrumental in me actually going to the psychiatric facility and spending some time in the facility and seeking therapy and maintaining therapy and keeping up with my medication and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I can't front. But that does happen a lot in circles where people are very religious. They just don't believe that mental instability or mental trauma can they think just believing in God or praying to God is something that can alleviate that. And to a degree, they do have some legitimacy to that, because I know people who get peace from prayer and they get peace from going to church, but it does not solve all issues. It doesn't. It can't. And it's not the fault of religion. It's just the nature of the beast. It's the nature of what mental instability looks like. Excuse me, man. Me and my wife are kind of under the weather, and we're kind of getting through something. We're getting a little bit better, but still, I'm coughing up a bunch of garbage, junk and shit. So We survive. That's what men do. We're survivors. That's what we tell it. I mean, look at all the shows based on us surviving shit, putting ourselves through stress purposely in order to overcome it and survive it, or not feel the pain, or to get by that pain. You know, emotional suppression is a real fucking thing. You know, it is a survival mechanism, folks. It really is. And really, especially for black men, emotional suppression is a survival mechanism in racist situations and in the systems, in the racist systems that this country is built upon. Softness is dangerous. If you say something or you cry, or you can't cry. You know, it's almost criminalized. It's almost criminalized for you to show that side of you, for you to cry, to release. It's scientifically proven that crying makes you feel better. It is a release. It's necessary. We have to go through it. We have to do it. And I'm not afraid. I cry. And that was a long time. I mean, that's one of the reasons I take medications, so I don't feel like I have to cry, or if like I feel like I want to cry every day. Now, that's what it's like for me, because I mean, a lot. I feel like I want to cry. I want to cry for the state of the world. I want to cry about the things that that have happened to me in my life, the things that I've lost. I want to cry a lot. I'm tired. I don't know. There's some things wrong with me medically. I don't know why. I mean, there's a lot of things for me to cry about. But one of the things that crying does is it always makes me feel better. Like I said before, 75% of all suicide victims in the United States are men. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for men from age 10 to 34. Men are 4 times more likely to die by suicide than women. Only 36% of men with mental health issues will ever seek help, and black men are less likely than white men to receive mental health services, but are more likely to be misdiagnosed. Depression in men often goes undiagnosed because it shows up as anger or irritability or numbness, but rarely does it show up as sadness, because we're trained that we can't be sad, that we're not supposed to be sad. We can be angry about it, but can't feel sad about it. So why do men stay silent? Why do we not talk about our problems? Why? Well, there's some things. If you guys hear, it's raining outside. One of the reasons is fear of judgment or emasculation. They don't, like I said, we don't want to be judged. Some men don't know how to articulate how they feel. They lack the emotional vocabulary to say, hey, man, I need some help, man. They don't want to lose their fucking jobs because you might be a pussy out here on the fucking construction site. It's just crazy. For black people, for black men like myself, there's an extreme mistrust of the medical system, especially, like I said, especially for us black men. I mean, when I was looking for a therapist, it was very, very important to me that I got a therapist that could relate to me, that was able to relate to me, that couldn't, at the end of our session, put it away and go, oh, well, I just, that's cool, but I can't understand that because I'm not a black person. Now, I was very careful. I didn't want to come across as being a racist, but I did very much so want a black therapist. And I have a great therapist. She's awesome. And I've been talking to her for 3 years now. And I would consider her to be somebody that I can absolutely 100% confide in and feel comfortable and not feel emasculated and not feel judged, and somebody who is genuinely going to take my best interest in heart and really trying to help get me some help. And it works. It works. Sometimes it's because there's no access. People don't have access to the treatment. But that's getting a little fewer and far between because there's online platforms that you can log on to. Like I see my therapist a lot through telehealth. And sometimes I go into the office just to, be social, but I do telehealth right here from my RV, wherever I am in the country. And that makes it okay. That makes it worth doing. And I don't have to be laid out on somebody else's couch. I can lay down on my own couch. Sometimes we can't afford it. There's instances where people don't have health insurance or they don't have money, and people want to charge them for this service. And for those people, I say this: if you're following me and that's one of your situations, DM me, let me know what's happening, or send me an email, or try and get in touch with me however you can through the podcast playground or any of the platforms that you follow me on, and I will do my best to help you get some help, because it is really important that you do. And it breaks my heart that there are people in our country that need this service but are still challenged by the lack of affordable care. There's people who feel like no one will understand. That was me for a long time. I didn't think people would understand my situation, but boy, was I wrong. And this is really controversial, but a lot of people believe that this is a common part of suffering. Talk about men's mental health and why we don't go to the doctor, what we suffer from the most. This is a deep subject, so I'm probably going to do a few episodes on this subject. June is Men's Mental Health Month, and I'll tell you what, it should be at the forefront every single month. Men's mental health, it needs to in my opinion, Men's Mental Health Month needs to be like Black History Month. There should not be a Black History Month, because it should be Black History every month. You know what I'm saying? And I feel the same way about men's mental health, or just mental health in general. Mental health should be a priority for everyone, not just men, but everyone. Everybody's mental health is important. Your children, your doctor, everybody. People who are alive and breathing. Your mental health is important. And don't let anybody tell you that it's not. So, like I was saying, what are some of the things that men suffer from the most? What are the most common mental illnesses that men suffer from? Well, I've given you a couple of them because I suffer from them. I suffer from major depressive disorder, or MDD. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't go away, but it can be managed. I take a couple medications, and they're non-habit forming, they're non-narcotic, and I do quite well on them. I take Wellbutrin, and I don't think it's Zoloft. I think there's another one that I take. Anyway, and I take guanfacine. I take guanfacine to kind of help me focus a little bit, and the combination of the three, they work great. They work great. They enable me to function for the most part, and not be in a depressive state a lot. I don't feel like I need to cry all the time. And that, coupled with therapy, really does help me out. I'm a big fan. So the next thing is generalized anxiety disorder. And a lot of people are like, what am I scared? But you would be surprised at what people have anxiety about, all kinds of stuff. Post-traumatic stress disorder, especially veterans, like people who survived some sort of abuse, men from violent neighborhoods, all kinds of shit. There's lots of things that contribute to post-traumatic stress disorder. Then there is substance use disorders. There is bipolar disorder. There is suicidal ideation and self-harm. There is obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD. There is schizophrenia. There is adult ADHD, which I suffer from that also. and body dysmorphia or muscle dysmorphia. Those are all different mental health conditions that men suffer from the most. So the question is when do you go get help? And a lot of men say, I'll go when it gets serious. I'll go when I feel like I need to go to the doctor. It's not that bad. I'll get around to it. And they put it off and put it off and put it off. Let me just remind you that 75% of men, 75% of suicides, 75% of suicides. You get it? You follow me, fellas? 75% of suicides because of mental health is us. We got to get rid of the I'm fine syndrome. You know what I'm saying? We got to stop thinking just because we ain't bleeding that we healthy. We got to quit that. And I know that for a lot of people, the medical system can be confusing. It can make you feel stupid or emasculate you. I get it, because there's a lot of technicality to it. And a lot of us, let's just face it, we're just not real technical. And then we go out there and get shit done. That's what we do. Leave the technicalities to, somebody else. Another reason we don't go is because there's a lack of reliable doctors. More and more is doctors are just fucking incompetent. And I mean, there's, like I said, for me, it took me a while, but when I found my therapist, I was just super grateful. It's a lack of relatable doctors, people who just don't get it. You know what I mean? I had two psychiatrists when I was younger. I had Dr. Claxton, and Dr. Kleckner. Dr. Paxton and Dr. Kleckner out when I lived in San Diego on the Navy base. And I had those guys, and they were great, but they were two white guys who really couldn't understand what it was like to be a young black child. They just couldn't understand it. And it's not that they didn't try. They certainly tried. And they were great people. They were great men. And they really did. They worked their ass off. And quite honestly, I mean, this was when I was young. I was young. But I would love to have seen them again, to tell them thank you for the therapy. Thank you. I needed it. I'd gone through, like I said, my parents had gone through a divorce. I had moved to, another part of the country, and I was new kid everywhere, getting picked on, trying to fit in. It was difficult. And they made my transition. They helped my transition. They helped me. So, another reason we don't go is distrust due to racist practices in medicine. And another reason we don't go is cultural conditioning. Physical health, mental health. Simple as that. Now, what happens if you leave these things unchecked? If you have these things and you leave these things unchecked, well, a lot of things happen. Your relationships in your life begin to break down. You might lose your job. Your physical health will definitely start to suffer. And like depression and heart disease are linked. You know what I mean? You might turn to substance abuse. Some people turn it in on their partners, and people become victims of domestic violence, or they inflict the domestic violence on their partner, and ultimately suicide. 75% of all suicides in the United States are men. So, what are some solutions? Let's go through a few solutions, okay? Where and how you can get some help if you need it. So, kind of bear with me. I got to kind of read through some of this stuff. But free or low-cost mental health resources. Therapy for Black Men is therapyforblackmen.org. You can write that down. Another one is the Open Path Collective, Affordable Therapy. There is NAMI, N-A-M-I, National Alliance on Mental Illness, Peer Support and Education. There's Ethel's Club, healing circles, community healing for the BIPOC communities. And there are apps that you can get. There's Calm, there's Headspace, Liberate, Black Meditation app, which that's what it is, and Mood Path. Okay, so there are some resources out there for people who are interested in taking that step. And trust me, you will not be disappointed. You won't be disappointed. You know, I wish more men would do it. We might have a better go of society if we did. So remember this, y'all. Just start small. You know, you don't have to jump off the deep end right off the bat and go telling your whole life. But start small. But definitely get some help, man. Start with journaling. You know, write your name, write your emotions down. That works, believe it or not. I turn all my emotions. I'm a comedian, so I turn my emotions into jokes. You never know. Some of you guys might have some great stories pent up inside of you. So do yourself that favor, okay? I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Deron Harris Podcast. And, you know, this is, for me, it's kind of a different tone from politics and racism, et cetera, because I really do care about the mental stability of everybody and the mental stability of men. So if you guys are just as passionate about that, do yourself the favor and go out and seek some help. Okay? I want to thank everybody for joining me this week. I want to thank my parents for giving me the mouthpiece. I want to thank my wife for being my absolute biggest fan. I want to thank my best friend, Jay Yandel, for being the lights out producer that he is every week. I want to thank Gentry Thomas for the platform. And last but not least, I want to thank all my listeners out there that are listening, and all the people that listen that don't listen anymore. I want to thank you guys as well. So couldn't do it without you. So until next week, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful week. And keep your head up, man. All right? Peace.
You've been listening to the Deron Harris Podcast. Subscribe to the show, give a good rating, and everything you need to know is at DeronHarris.com.